Ladies and gentlemen.
I haven't really heard what Jeremy says because I got my 2 Stanley Cup rings right in my ear.
Introduce.
Is this a guy that's going to be traded, though?
You're an announcer with a long stick from time to time.
You think it's my fault? Is that what you're saying? This guy's such an idiot here.
The Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Puck Luck Fantasy Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Sudemans. Unfortunately, Dylan can't be with us again today. He claims he's passed his medical, but I may have slipped our team doctors at 20 in order to keep him down a couple more games. So with that being said, I'm going to be breaking down the 2 games that we have today for DraftKings. We have the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Washington Capitals in another early game at 3 p.m. today. And then we have the Winnipeg Jets at the Nashville Predators at 7 p.m. I'm going to remind you to check out our website, puckluckfantasy.com. You can find our stacks and player rankings there, our goalie rankings, and lots of other fun stuff too. While you're there, make sure you throw in your email so we can keep you updated on any model updates, and as well as you'll be eligible for a discount on a subscription next season once we roll out. You can also make sure to follow us on Twitter. We're at Puck Luck Fantasy, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find us on your favorite podcasting platform. We're now on iTunes and Stitcher. So, jumping into things, we have the first game of the day here. We're expecting Matt Murray to be in net, and he's going to be facing Braden Holtby. So these 2 goalies, this is one of those days where there isn't a major difference between the best and the worst goalies. We kind of like Rinne today a little bit. We also like Hellebuck, just because we know Nashville shoots the puck a ton. And so the Pittsburgh and Washington goalies, they're a little bit lower today than the other 2, but really any goalie is playable for sure if you're doing tournaments. It's only really for cash that I would particularly go to Rinne today. He's really the safest bet for your cash plays. But for tournaments today, basically you just need to find the goalie that will line up with the rest of your stacks. All right, so let's check out what those stacks might actually be today. And we do actually have a couple of stacks that we can use from this game. So the top one is actually going to be the line that has Phil Kessel on it. So Phil Kessel, Dominic Simone, and Riley Sheahan. So they're actually the top line in terms of just overall value. Now they are a little bit cheaper, so it might not be the best play, but just if you're looking in terms of overall value, they are the ones to go to. Just like a slight edge behind them is going to be the Ovechkin, Tom Wilson, and Evgeny Kuznetsov line. So they're going to be one of them that I'm going to be pretty heavily targeting today. They're really the only one that's like super expensive besides the Crosby line that I'm really going to be touching today. So I'll probably be going to them quite a bit. They're fairly high up in terms of value, and they also should see a fairly good matchup today since they are in Washington. We have seen that when they're in Washington, Backstrom has been used as their sort of shutdown guy in order to free up Ovechkin to see the Pittsburgh depth. And this is actually one of those times where Pittsburgh's depth is actually kind of weak because we've seen that they have lost Malkin and as well as Hagelin now. So with those 2 out, you get quite a significant boost to Ovi, and that's why we see him appearing fairly high. So individually, he's a great cash play. You could talk me into even using him as a one-off in tournaments, but their full line is pretty good value, so I'm probably just going to be sticking to that. And as well as you can definitely add on John Carlson with them. He's pretty high up today. He's only 5.7K, so that's a nice price for him. He's in about the top quarter of our value rankings, so that's what you need. So he pairs up really well with them, and then you can go from there. And as I was mentioning, the other line that I was really going to target from this game would be the top line from the Penguins with Gensel, Hornqvist, and Crosby on that line. So even though Washington has a shutdown line, and I'm going to say that with sort of air quotes because it's not really a great shutdown line, it's really just so that they can get Ovechkin to go against the depth of the other teams. So even though Crosby's going to be seeing the shutdown line, that shutdown line isn't that great, so his value is still really high. We like them. We like all of those players, particularly Hornquist. I would definitely get him into cash, that he's the most valuable individual player from this line. But I like that whole line in general. And they pair fairly well with, you could maybe throw in Oli Mata. He doesn't really have the correlation with them, but Chris Letang is the go-to for that line, especially with him and Hornquist usually hook up if there's power play goals. That's a fairly common thing. You get a Chris Letang point shot tipped in front by Patrick Hornquist. So that's kind of what you would be going for. Letang is nice and high up, so that works really well. And that's really the only plays that are really going to be worthwhile playing tonight from this game. There's only 2 games, so that's actually a lot of options that you have there. So should make for some decent plays. All right, so move on now to the second game of the night. And this game, we are going to have the Winnipeg Jets, and they're going to be playing the Predators. So like we saw, the Jets came in, they stole a game from the Predators in game 1. The Predators outshot them like crazy, but Hellebuck was able to really stand on his head and just make a ton of saves. So we don't really expect him to play that well again, but we still like both of these goalies. They are both a little bit more valuable than the first game, so I'm going to be targeting them once again. You can you can really just use either one of them. It really just matters who you pair them with. So let's take a look at our stacks from this game. And this is where I'm probably going to be focusing really heavy on. I really like the second line from the Predators with Kevin Fiala, Kyle Turris, and Craig Smith. So they are our top value line overall, and they're really valuable today. They are up to about 0.8 in terms of value, which is pretty significantly high. You get that usually with individual players, but getting a full line at that value is pretty rare. And they've just been dropping in price. So I'm hoping they can finally heat up again, which is exactly what you want for tournaments, because the ownership on that line has been decreasing as well, because they really haven't been putting up a whole lot of points. So I'm going to be focusing very hard on that second line today, and they pair extremely well with Roman Josi, who is the top-rated defenseman, once again, in terms of value. And he's also right at that 0.8 in terms of values. So that's the best stack of the day by far, the best mega stack. So Fiala, Turris, Smith plus Josi makes it pretty easy to really plug and play with the rest of them. They're at a moderate range too, so you can really be creative with all the other combinations you do with them. So that will be pretty exciting for tonight. And we also really like the Patrick Laine, Nikolai Ehlers, and Paul Stastny line. So all of them individually could be played. They're all really underpriced, especially for the amount that they've been producing. We really like individually from this line. I really like Nikolai Ehlers tonight. He's a good play for cash if you're going to be going there. So just keep an eye on. They don't really pair super well. You could put Dustin Byfuglien, but he's not really high up on the list today. He's just more of a bubble play, I would say. I'm probably just going to be going mainly to that line and then using a defenseman from a different stack that can pair maybe a little bit better. There are a few more plays that you can use from this game. The third ranked value play overall is the top line from the Predators with Victor Arvidsson, Ryan Johansson, and Philip Forsberg. So that will be the one to target, especially if you need an expensive sort of line to fill out the rest of your players. I really like that line. They go well with PK Subban, who is still underpriced. He's down to 4,900 again, so make sure you're going to be getting a lot of him if you are loading up on that line. They have pretty heavy correlation between Subban and that first line, and then also very heavy correlation between Josi and the second line. So there's a lot to like from this game. I like both the top line, I like the second line, and then as you heard, I like the Jets lines as well in there. There's one more that could potentially make it if you need a ridiculously cheap line, which would be the Winnipeg's fourth line, but I don't really like them too much. Or actually, that's the third line with Tanev, Lowry, and Kopp, whatever you want to call that line. So they show up a little bit because I guess they've been shooting a little bit, but yeah, that's more of, I probably won't really be getting too much of them. They're more of a bubble play and they're super cheap. So that really wraps up in terms of stacks from this game anyways. just sort of looking through the individual players in terms of defensemen. There's Ryan Ellis is the other one that I didn't mention that you could use. He also plays on with with Roman Josi on their power play. So a sneakier play might be to use the second line of the Predators and then throw Ellis on there instead. Or even you could use both if you're looking to go that way. That's not something I do a lot of, but that could work as well because Ellis is nice and high up there in terms of our rankings. And then Trouba is as well if you just need a one-off defenseman to sort of round out your lineups. All right, so that will wrap up the games for today. So I'm going to move on to the Puck Luck picks of the day. And this is where I give you players from sort of 4 different tiers. And I give you expensive, sort of medium expensive, medium cheap, and cheap players that you can use either as one-offs in tournaments or mostly for cash. So in terms of a really expensive player today, there wasn't a whole lot, but I'm going to have to go to Patrick Hornquist. So he's only $6K, which is really cheap for him, especially in the role that he's getting on that top line with Crosby there. So he's my go-to there. In terms of a more expensive to moderate pick, I like Victor Arvidsson tonight. He's only 5.5K, which is really cheap for him. So he's another great option. In terms of sort of like a expensive to medium pick, I like Nikolai Ehlers. So he's a really good pick from the Jets at 5.1K. That's really cheap for him as well. And then I also like Kevin Fiala at 4.3K, and that's on the super cheap end. I'm really going to be targeting one main stack, and that will be the second line from Nashville, which is that Fiala, Turris, and Smith. And if you want to turn that into a mega stack, definitely go ahead and throw Roman Josi on there. And then in terms of a mini stack, the one that I like the most tonight is going to be Josi and Kevin Fiala there. So that'll be a nice little mini stack. All right, and that will wrap things up for today. I just want to remind you again, visit our website, puckluckfantasy.com. Check out our Twitter at puckluckfantasy. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Do all of that sort of thing. Make sure to check us out for the rest of the playoffs. Thank you for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.